for Makwaba about the POG political media and associate address here as a Ghana political headlines in Binampo at the highway no so Yajibre say the POG aperture for a board the Rasan normal to the Ecoso or my Ghana Busia Sunny Bepo the Rennes and needing no book council and subscribe to your POG media or job subscription or IT notification bell no now wash share no for so and so at me a canum so normal to the Ecoso or my Ghana Manusim Nebusia and some year poor a year bo a year a year tokono a nakache a the CJ of a oh my Ghana a Chief Justice na ebetoja na no ada a petition bia a NDC and I see John Dramani Mahama a submit man so one sign to say on so more one near man one I said letter or motron say on reply letter na just say who the be said be ya on so be san near ma e dey free the CJ office na any powerful for so etimi aba bebo adwuma e dey my Ghana na we na o matena wa e yetoko no so as we yinani you are John Dramani Mahama aba bonting and man of 24 hours say a year sa petition no on find a response in bra and I say on sister nema and free the CJ office abusua me say bejepe na yapo e dey rasa ansi me that say.
Moving on, it's deadline day for Chief Justice Acti0n to submit her preliminary response to petitions for her removal as set by President John Mahama. While it's unclear whether the Chief Justice has submitted her response, the next steps in the removal process depends on her comments or response. Presidential Affairs correspondent Maxwell Baba has more in this report.
Developments surrounding the petitions for the removal of the Chief Justice Acti0n from office have sparked debate after President Mahama forwarded the 3 petitions to the Council of State on March 24, 2025 seeking a removal. Chief Justice Acti0n responded by stating that she had not received the petitions or been informed of their contents. She also emphasized her right to a hearing before any decision could be made. In response, the President issued a letter through his Executive Secretary giving the Chief Justice 10 days to submit her preliminary response. While it is still unclear whether the Chief Justice has met the deadline for submitting a response, the next steps hinge on her comments. If the petitions are dismissed, the matter will end there. If not, a 5-member committee will be appointed to investigate the issue further. The Chief Justice will be given the opportunity to defend herself during a private inquiry, after which the committee will make a recommendation. A day after President Mahama forwarded the petitions to the Council of State, in a meeting with the Ghana Bar Association, he said neither the NDC nor his government hold any animosity towards the judiciary.
Right, there's this perception that we have a problem with the legal fraternity and things like that. I think that if you look at the kind of people, Marietta and all of us sitting here, we're not people who have any such animosity towards the judiciary.
Well, let's engage in lawyer Nana Kofi for Kantanga for more education on this. We've got our tabs on this and would give you updates on what happens in subsequent bulletins. But now, Nana, let me ask you, the time for the Chief Justice to give a response to the allegations against her elapsed today. Now, what are the alternatives if we do not know whether she has actually responded? But if she hasn't, does silence mean anything?
Okay. Thank you very much, Mamiesi. And then good morning to our listeners and viewers this morning. Yes, as you rightly put, as has been said time and over, what is happening now in respect of the removal of the Chief Justice cannot be found in the Constitution. As in respect of the prima facie, cannot be found in the Constitution, particularly Article 146. And we all know that it is the Baiketi, the J case, as a J2 versus Attorney General, which made provision for the determination of a prima facie determination by the President with the Council of States. Now, moving forward, we have come to another leg as to whether the President or the Council of State can give the Chief Justice a hearing Now, the J2 case made provision for the, by virtue of purposive interpretation, for the President and the Council of State to give the Chief Justice a preliminary hearing in the determination of a prima facie case against her.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening now in respect of the subject matter on which we are dealing now cannot be found in the Constitution, particularly Article 146, and also it cannot be found in the J2's case. Yes, it cannot be found. Why am I saying this? Now, the J2 case only made provision for the Chief Justice to be heard on the preliminary determination of a prima facie case against her. Now, the Constitution, or neither the Constitution or the J2 case, give a procedure as to how the Chief Justice can be heard.
Right.
Now, the President only gave the Chief Justice 10 days for her to submit her response for the determination of a prima facie case against her. Now, this is just an administrative directive from the Presidency and the Council of State. Now, there is no particular procedure. Later on, maybe in subsequent years, another government can also come that the Chief Justice, I'm giving you 5 days, I'm giving you 15 days, depending on the volume or the how weightier the petition against the Chief Justice is. So there's no particular procedure. Now the President has given the Chief Justice 10 days for her to write her response for the determination of the prima facie case.
Right.
Now, there's no particular procedure. Another President can also come, that's fine. I won't give you any number of days. Now, in determining for us to give you a hearing, now we will call you and appear before the Council of State for you to be heard. It's also a manner of hearing, not in written form. That's also what I'm saying. The procedure, there's no procedure in respect of some of these.
There are no clear-cut lines as to how to proceed in this manner. Well,
yes.
I mean, the Chief Justice fought for natural justice to prevail.
Yes.
And she's been given the opportunity to respond to the petitions against her. Well, the day elapses today, 10 whole days.
Yes.
Whether she's responded or not, I mean, let's take this scenario. If the response does not come in, we take it as silence. Does it mean anything?
Yes. Now, as you rightly said, we are not aware whether the Chief Justice has submitted her response or not.
Yeah.
Now, if she hasn't, now nothing stops the Chief Justice from getting back to the Presidency for an extension of time within which to file her response. Yes, nothing stops her from writing to the President for an extension of time.
Right.
Now, if she doesn't give a response to the Presidency and the Council of State, now it will be deemed as if the Chief Justice has waived her right of hearing. Because under the circumstance, when so happens, then the President and the Council of State have satisfied their constitutional of giving her a jury.
Right.
So nobody can say, oh no, the 10 days is just an administrative directive from the President. So which the Chief Justice has accepted. If she has any problems with it, she could have written back that the 10 days is too small. But if she hasn't submitted, nothing stops her from writing back to the Presidency for an extension of time to file a response. But if she doesn't, by the close of the day, if she doesn't, it means she has waived her right to be heard. And the President and the Council of State can go ahead for the determination of a prima facie case against her, for her to appear before the 5-member committee.
So in case she, you know, there's a case against her, she appears before the committee, that may possibly lead to her removal or not. But then, what are the broader legal implications if she's removed?
If the Chief Justice is removed, then in the interim, maybe the senior member on the bench can act as Chief Justice. Then the appointment process will kick in, as how a normal Chief Justice will be appointed. Yes, if she is removed, then somebody can act. A senior member on the bench can act, and then the appointment process can kick in. So that will be the legal implication.
Right.
Then, if she doesn't agree, she has the right to take the government on for maybe if there is a breach or anything, she can sue for anything.
Who will she sue in this case?
For if there is any breach of the procedure, if there is any breach of procedure, maybe during the committee stage, anything at all can happen. Maybe she wasn't given a fair hearing. Anything can happen. If there is any breach at all, she can take. It's same as the ANAS cases. After the justices of the Supreme Court were removed, they also took suits against the Attorney General and Tiger and others. So if there is any breach of any process or anything due her, she can take an action against the government.
So
yes, and then for that one will depend on the relief.
I want to understand. In the government, who is it? The Attorney General? Is it the President? General. Is it the state? Right.
Yes, the state. Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your time here on our desk. Now, moving on, a high-level meeting between government of Ghana and the U.S. ambassador will take place as authorities race to respond to the United States imposition of a 10% universal tariff on imports from Ghana and other countries. The Ministries of Trade, Finance, Foreign Affairs, and Agribusiness and Industry will lead the talks, aiming to safeguard Ghana's export interests and sustain investor confidence amid concerns over trade disruptions. Meanwhile, African ministers responsible for trade will deliberate next week following the latest executive order. There's more in the following report.
U.S. President Donald Trump receiving applause at the White House after signing new executive orders imposing new import tariffs for countries across the world. After coming into force on April 9, some African countries such as Lesotho,
like POG Media and Indian Ubo Consumer so be like and so subscribe so POG Media or see a lot measure so drop subscription now hit the notification bell no so don't subscribe daily updates no every day go highway no so now share am for 9 some match say you are John Dramani Mahama elema and I say all catch CG token no simple I just say any kwan so church and simbia movie say another buy mu na mo de token no de buy I just say katajisho ni birim di ni na mo ne na just say almost Mudi or minor who are any some kit to Accra, say you are John Dramani Mahama by an agenda for resetting Ghana, no chese, or no so the night or the necessity of very setting or minor, no matter what. Necessity, and also say token or CJ token or in free office, on free buying man as on free office, not as so before just say a year. Katashi any project and born home and handle a year CG Ejumano and Fama or my Ghana, which I may say about 18 some no medicine.
Could be paying as high as 50% on U.S. import tariffs. Giving the far-reaching implications, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, Bawumia Mene, has hinted that Africa is exploring ways by which it could effectively respond.
The President of the United States has given us a wake-up call. And the wake-up call is that we must accelerate our own economic self-sufficiency. The Ministers of Trade will meet on the 14th of April to deliberate on this matter and exactly how our continent should respond.
In the meantime, the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area has entered into a memorandum of understanding with the National Bar Association of the U.S. Although this engagement is aimed at deepening cooperation, there are fears that U.S. President Donald Trump's rhetoric of America First could leave Africa benefiting less than it should. But Secretary General Bawumia Mene says that will not be the case.
We will continue to pursue that trade and investment partnership that is based on mutual respect and mutual benefits. And this is what we agreed to with Ambassador Tai, the then US Trade Representative. We obviously will not be in a position to condone or support America first and everybody else last. That is not a partnership that is within the spirit of the MOU that we have with the United States. We will pursue what is in Africa's best interests, not last interests, but best interests, as we seek a path forward in respect of AGOA. Combined with some of the trade instruments that we have introduced, as well as the overall liberalization objective of the AFCFTA, I believe that we're well positioned as a continent to turn this crisis into an opportunity.
Stakeholders remain hopeful that the latest partnership with the National Bar Association at least will provide a platform for engaging dialogue on the legal and economic frameworks that support trade and investments across the African continent. Resp0nd report for Joy News, Accra.
Well, back to the studios now. Let's speak to Louis Yao Afo, who is Group Executive Director of the African Continental Free Trade Policy Network. We're grateful for your time here on our desk. First of all, from where you sit, when this meeting takes place today, in your opinion, what would these ministers be talking about?
Thank you for having me. And good morning.
Good morning. Could you please amplify your voice a bit for us?
Good morning to your viewers. I hope it's better.
If it could go up a little bit.
Thank you very much.
Right.
I think that if you are looking at the African trade ministers, if they meet, the options are clear. There is no turning back from Donald Trump. That is first. There is no turning back from Donald Trump. What they need to do is to rather look inward, change the alternative pattern of their trade agreement with outside the African Continental Free Trade. Then again, it is important for the ministers to really consider which categories of products really has been hardly hit by the tariffs. Because I think this is a reciprocal kind of tariff. And he's based on the deficit that his country has with any other country and slash it over two. Therefore, if you take Ghana, for example, after 2024, the U.S. was in the deficit of almost over $1 billion, and Ghana was just about 700 and something million, meaning that U.S. was in deficit. In other words, how do you overturn or how do you respond to such a policy? And that is why, if you are looking at the African trade ministers, because under ASCFTA they all went as collective, they must go in that collective manner, but they must negotiate based upon the categories of concessions that they have within the agreement. It's quite complex because at the end of the day, even within the ASCFTA, the regional blocks traded based on concessions, and those concessions were based upon various categories of products. West Africa went to about 5,000 categories of products. Other countries went as single. So it's even under AS, we don't have a collective bargaining. That is one important thing. So if they are meeting, they have to look at the collective bargaining approach, which is very, very important for the first point. The collective bargaining approach, which is very, very important. And when they are able to settle on the collective bargaining approach, then they can negotiate with the Trump administration to really either delay or negotiate for reduction.
And so you say that Africa's strength is in its unity, coming together to push this agenda.
Yes, basically, you have a concession. They all have concessions. It is important to really come together. If you say come together, they're already together. But the important point is that they're already together. So what they need to do is that they need to, in fact, after Secretariat has an MOU with the U.S. trade representative, there is already an existing MOU with the U.S. So if they want to go through that route, that is also okay. They have a route, they have a USTR agreement with AFTA Secretariat. So that binds the whole AFTA member states as one block. And they can go through that route and say, look, based upon this MOU we have with you, we want to come through this route as one collective body. So this is what we are not going to let you slash it on individual countries when it comes to ASCF. We want to come together as one, just as the MOU stated. This is the approach they have to go through first. If that is understood, then they can reduce it or ask for collective reduction of the tariffs looking at the quantum of tariffs based upon each country that has been given. Because South Africa has about 30, other countries have about 10, others have about 15. Let's ignore the quantum of the approach. And let's rather go for a collective, maybe 1% lash on all member states and thereafter. This is the approach that they need to go through. Because it can never be zero from the U.S. U.S. will not budge to say that we want to give zero tariff because of our MOU. No, they won't.
Well, it looks like we are in a very difficult situation, but really what long-term strategies should African countries or perhaps Ghana consider to build resilience against such directives going into the future?
Yes, I think that basically we have to look inward. We have to look inward through the African Continental Free Trade Agreement itself. Because the agreement was to boost intra-African trade, and it was based upon comparative advantage. Therefore, it is important that we look and have comparative advantage trade-offs. For example, if you take Ghana, last 3 years, Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire decided to reach a bargaining agreement on cocoa, because we realized that the sale of cocoa, the sale of chocolate, all goes to be in the Netherlands, about 80%. Therefore, we need to also encourage what we call the guided trade approach. The guided trade approach or guided trade initiative is where countries under the ESPA can come together and say, look, we have set this date that we want to trade among us, maybe about 7 countries. And we are identifying maybe 10 categories of products. We are shipping them to each country under the tariff regime. Some have reduced by over a period of 5 years, some say 10 years. So when we engage in this guided trade, it helps. Again, we also have to establish trade houses within each state party. Ghana has a trade house in Kenya. So all Ghanaian products are sold there. And then these suppliers or companies who have their exports there, they receive the repatriation, they receive the revenue through that route of Ghana Ministry of Trade and Industry. This is very, very important because the problem facing the African Continental Free Trade is that it's like who should call the shot? Which country is ready to move? And so guided trade initiative could be another approach. Then again, another good approach is through the special economic zones. What we have here as free zones. Because special economic zones is the improved form of the free zone, whereby there are a lot of economies of scale that really takes place within a zone, within an enclave, which gives room for more exports to be expanded. And then you reduce tax.
But I say, so Jebra now, Penny Edema, the POG political media, no same brother, catching him if political news, any daily updates, in Guasway, and also who net today, also, my Ghana manuscript. And also subscribe to your POG media, needing your book, so I'm just a post subscription. Now I hit the notification bell, no, I share enough of us, so answer, so at me, I can. Now, episode between command and structure, I don't so meeting me so about the rather comment section. Now, also, I didn't come on a POG media man, say, Beba, Nayan Suyama, a more, I may say, so Jebra, Edema, POG Media, best share.